Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Nerdy for 30, the podcast where comedian Tim Keck and I talk about nerdy-ish things for 30-ish minutes. My name is Kevin Bauer, and today we are talking about Jordan Peele's latest movie, Nope. Now, before this movie came out, it seems like every single review used the title in a word, yup. Which I get for the bit. What was interesting about it was that they all seemed to go for yup, like Y-U-P. Everybody standardized on what the opposite of nope would be. Nobody went with yep. They all went with yup. Tim, do you agree with the U? Do you stand the E? Where do you stand on this issue?
Oh, they all went yup? Nope,
they all went
yep?
Yup, not yep. I didn't see a single yep.
Oof. I feel like I'd go yep.
I would absolutely go yep.
When was the last time you said yup?
Oh boy, probably when I was 6 years old playing with a Burger King Happy Meal toy of Woody from Toy Story.
For me, it was when I was bringing my wagon back from the market, and my wife, old Marge, was in the back with the baby, and my son was hitting the hoop with his stick next to the cart as our donkey, old Nellie, struggled to pull us up the dirt road back to our homestead. That was the last time I said yup.
I feel like we approached that prompt with the same premise in mind. But the execution of it was like when you watch an NBA player go play against high school kids for like a fundraising day at the school.
Not true. You just referenced Woody, whereas I described Woody's life.
Sure.
It's funny that everybody went yup and then gave it like 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like nobody's like like they went for the headline. I don't know anyone who's loved this movie. You know, I haven't met a single person who's loved this movie. I really, really liked this movie and was left kind of hollow at the end and unsatisfied. I left with blue balls, and I blame Jordan Peele for that. I mean, what, am I alone here, Kevin? What were you thinking about this movie? Yup, nope, yep.
No, I mean, I think I'm a yup just insofar as I feel like that E connotates a lot more excitement. I feel like my excitement level for this movie is now at like if somebody comes up to a Cowboys front porch and they're like, "Hey, does Earl live here?" And the Cowboy's like, "Yup." Who's asking? I'm at a yup, who's asking level of excitement here. I've been trying to put my finger on why since I saw it. I think you nailed it when we were texting about it, when you said that it just ended up being a creature feature. And I think one of the things that has been the most interesting about Us and obviously Get Out is the societal themes that they've explored. And I don't necessarily think that it should be a requirement for Jordan Peele to have to make any certain type of movie. You know, he's fucking direct whatever type of movie you want, man. I do kind of feel like I fell prey to the expectations trap that got me earlier this year for Doctor Strange, because if we're talking about a pattern, first movie, Get Out, very societal. Second movie, Us, very societal. Nope, I don't think it says that much about society at large.
I think there's a lot of like metaphor in it and symbolism and like meaning in the characters, and you can like analyze it the way you would analyze a work of fiction in like your English class, right? Like Moby Dick, like the whale's not real, you know, like there's something here to that expect. But like, I was thinking like I showed up to this, like if somebody invited me to go like hang out at their pool, and I put on my baggies, I grab my towel, I grab my giant donut inner tube that has like a bite out of it, you know?
Yeah, man.
Which is like a terrible design flaw because you're getting less flotation, but it's for the bit because it's like, oh, it's a donut. It was so good. Somebody had to bite. It's like you've got like less flotation. You got one weird chunk out of your thing, but it's cool because it's more fun. Like the goal is to have fun when you're at the pool. So I go to the pool. We get all our stuff. We're laughing. I'm dragging the cooler. Someone's got the grill set up. And we get there and the pool is like one of those pools that people get trained to like deep sea scuba dive in. And it's just like 25 by 25 and then 200 feet straight down. And And they're like, yeah, man, ready to go. And it's like, yes, this is a pool. Yes, this is deep, but it's not satisfying to be here. This isn't really what I wanted. I'm not sure this is what anybody wanted. Is there depth here? Is there symbolism? Is there a lot going on? Did he put a ton of thought into this? Is this the movie he wanted to make? I think the answer for all of that is yes. But ultimately, I'm standing here, towel in one hand, dick in the other, and I am left blue balled, Kevin, standing by this deep pool. What do I tell the kids?
Well, before you talk to the kids at all, you should put your dick away. That is such a good way to put it. I think what really twisted the knife for me was that when the little tiny aliens were shown in the trailer, I was so in on them. I was like, this is going to be fucking great. I've never seen the aliens depicted as being real little guys before. This is going to be, he's going to find a way to make it terrifying. And then the little tiny alien scene happens, and it's like a little bit goofy, but for the most part, based on past trust of Jordan Peele, I'm along for the ride. I dig that they're furry. I'm trying to make the chimp connection at the beginning. I'm like, is this going to be the first time that they treat extraterrestrials like an animal species instead of like a civilized species? What's the connection? What's this going to be? The one pops its head out, synchronized with the first one. It was cool as hell. And then it turns out to be kids. And as soon as it turned out to be kids, I knew we weren't getting a normal like E.T. alien movie. I knew that it was going to be some kind of a different twist on it. And the Jaws angle, I mean, okay, so here's I think what's unsatisfying for me. If it was extraterrestrials, right? If this was an intelligent species, we still have the opportunity to dive into their motivations as characters. It's still in some way like a man versus man story, and the way that every story is man versus nature, man versus himself. When it becomes Jaws, it's man versus nature. And I fully appreciate the analysis of how all of these different characters relate to wild animals. I thought that was really interesting. I love Steve Yeun's entire arc in this movie. It was super cool. But at the end of the day, the animal's motivation is never going to be more than just it wants to eat. So I feel like when you're making one of those, you know, the crux of the movie is on everything else that's going on and what's driving these people to interact with this wild animal in the first place. And at the end of the day, I just didn't really buy their motivation for interacting with a wild animal.
I agree. Yeah, man versus nature is the least satisfying conflict there is in storytelling. It's only satisfying when it becomes man versus himself, right? Like,
yeah,
that's Jaws, ultimately, right? Is a man struggling with himself. And I'm not sure the creature meant anything in this. Maybe he did, but like, what character growth did we see from Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer involving this alien? Like, they're standing up for themselves. I guess they're like, their bond is increasing. But if the monster was like a hurricane, would it change the story at all? If it was a tornado, would it change the story at all? Like, if it was a Bigfoot, would it change the story? Like, I guess I just don't. I don't know. I don't know if I was waiting for something else, you know?
This is off the top of my head. So again, if this goes nowhere, I apologize. I'm riffing this for the first time right now.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the Kaluuya arc is supposed to be along the lines of man versus man, because in that first scene where we see him and he is on the film set, he's not really looking anybody in the eye. He's like, he seems sheepish to be around people almost the same way that you're supposed to interact around a wild animal, you know, not making direct threatening eye contact. Like, he seems very deferential to everybody around him as though they threaten him. So are we meant to think that the character arc for him is that by the end of the movie, he's come into his own and developed confidence because he's willing to stare eye to eye with this giant, massive space beast?
Yeah, which like I think you said afterwards too, like what's the moral of the story is that he breaks the rules of how to interact with this creature and somehow survives, but like why would he survive when the rule is that you don't look at it and that helps you? Also, I don't know if that really is the rule. You're right. Like, is that a character thing that he came up with, or is that an actual rule? Because I'm not sure. Did other people look away the same way he did? I guess they kind of did at the end. Like his sister looked away.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird. I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff going on there. I mean, I didn't really read. I intentionally tried to stay in the dark as much about this as possible, just so we could kind of be like riffing from the dome. But I'm sure there's articles like dissecting like all the underlying stuff in here. There's definitely a racial component to like the whole movie, because that's kind of Jordan Peele's thing. And definitely in this first scene, it's like our great grandfather did this incredible thing. He's like he should be an icon in Hollywood, but instead we're like barely getting by. We're like scraping by. We're not doing anything. We're like, you know, averting our eyes and being ignored and treated like shit in a commercial where some old white lady is like going to get on a horse and like all these people are talking down to us and they wish like our like parents were there, you know, and they're like disappointed that we're here and they like don't want to deal with us. Like there is like there's just a lot going on there. And like, honestly, that's the best part of the movie. Like the movie is great aside from the monster. Like, you know, what if there just wasn't a monster in this movie and he just like made this about them on the farm and a hurricane? Like, I don't know, really, the rest of the movie is so cool and the relationships are so cool. The characters are so interesting. All the stuff that's being said within their interactions is so interesting. The dialogue is great. Oh, yeah. And then just this like boring ass creature rolls in and it's unsatisfying. I saw this there's the great story about like Get Out and like the trailer for Get Out, and spoiler alert for Get Out. But there's a scene in Get Out. The big twist in Get Out is the girlfriend reaching into the purse and pulling out the keys because she's been looking for these keys. She's been looking for the keys. Turns out she's had the keys in her hand the whole time and she's been pretending because she's actually the bad guy. And apparently that was in the trailer initially. The story is that it was in the trailer initially. Jordan Peele's like, this is the twist of the movie. You cannot have this in the trailer. He fights for it. It's not in the trailer, and becomes, I'd say, one of the best twists in like, you know, definitely horror movies, but in maybe most movies. And part of the reason why this was so successful, right? Us see the trailer, not really sure what's going on in us. We watch the movie, we get answers. This trailer, I watched the trailer for Nope a couple times. Accidentally, I'm anti-trailer, but I see a movie. Nope happens to be on there. And I have a lot of questions. What is this? What is this? Is it just a monster? Like, is it just a bad guy? Is it just aliens? And the questions in the trailer are answered, but it doesn't make the movie better. I feel like it made the movie worse. So it's just, you're just expecting this next. I'm just expecting this next thing, and it doesn't happen. I guess I don't know how else to. I don't want to talk about it for the rest of the time and be just like keep regurgitating the same thing. But it was just incredibly unsatisfying. I mean, I don't know. It was just incredibly frustrating from a guy who's done some of the best work. I don't know. It's crazy. Is he done? Is he ever going to make another good movie?
I think he will. Our buddy Breen has the theory that there's probably going to be about one more big blockbuster, because I guess he has an overall deal with Universal. And so that's why he made this one so quickly anyway. I guess Breen's theory is he's just trying to get out of this overall deal. So he made this one really quickly, significantly faster than he made either of his earlier two movies, and wrote it significantly faster. That's complete speculation. It's a shame if that's true, because he is so good at it. Like, he is so fucking good as a director. And I think there's such a small group of people that can deliver a really satisfying, huge movie right now. And I think Jordan Peele's one of them. So I'm just a little bit confused about everything that happened here. Maybe it is the trailer. I'm becoming more anti-trailer this year. Trailers, I used to love watching them because sometimes the trailer for a movie itself becomes part of the cultural conversation. And so I liked being a part of that, but I've been disappointed 6 times this year by things that have happened in trailers that make it seem like the tone of the movie is going to be radically different. And I'm really tired of it. I don't want this to happen anymore. Another thing for the trailer, while we're talking about it, I'm going to throw up the beefs.
Where's the beef?
I hate the way they showed the woman who had been attacked by the chimp in the trailer. Because when they showed that in the trailer and you see the veil blow up on her face and she doesn't have lips and her teeth are bared, it suggests that she is maybe one of the aliens that's there. It's really objectifying. Knowing the situation, knowing that this person was a victim of a wild animal attack and has been disfigured as a result of this attack. I mean, it's really fucking othering to use this person who, like, look, yes, this isolated character is a fictional person, but people exist in real life that have been attacked by chimps, have suffered horrible burns. This kind of thing of like making a person who is disfigured in an accident a point that's supposed to sell terror in a movie just further supports the idea that the way they look is not okay and should be feared. I think it's really gross that they did that. I don't know who had control. I wish they hadn't done that, hadn't shown that in the trailer in that way. It reminds me, more recently, they did a reboot of the movie The Witches with Anne Hathaway. And the witches in the movie have 2 fingers on each hand. It's 2 or 3 fingers on each hand. And that's a birth defect that can happen where people will have 2 or 3 fingers on each hand. And they were rightfully very mad about it because it's a situation that they encounter every single day in their life as people who don't know how to react because they've never seen someone with a hand like this before. And maybe the only time they've ever seen something like that in film is an evil witch. It's like representation in the worst way possible.
There's also the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so don't forget about that.
Cool, yeah.
Some of the best heroes of all time have 3 fingers on their hands.
Right. So, mutant reptiles, great.
So there's equal that live in the sewer and aren't allowed to be a part of our society. Yes, that is all very true and accurate for people with 3 fingers.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding. I don't know. I mean, you're right. This stuff is tricky because what's more scary or disturbing than something that is unusual, right? Like a defect, like missing a body part, like mutilation, like all of these things are like a part of our society. People make jokes about horrible things. It's like one of the scariest things is that you could be a victim of something horrible. So that could happen to your body, all this stuff. I mean, it is horrifying. It is like interesting material. I get why people incorporate it in their art. I feel like it's somewhat inescapable. I mean, I would also hate, I don't know, this is tough, Kevin, because I would also hate to alienate anybody, but I also understand why a physical deformity would make sense in a horror context in that light. But yeah, I don't want anybody to feel bad, to watch that and feel bad about themselves. That is horrible. I 100% agree that I think her only role showing up disfigured in the movie is to be a red herring in the trailer. Like, that's it. That's the only reason her character exists. Yeah. Because I saw her in the movie and was like, oh, okay, that's why she was in the trailer, was because it was to throw us off, to just be like, what is she? What's her thing? Like, seeing her in the trailer just had me asking questions. And you know, in this, it was kind of unnecessary. But he's just like, oh, if I put a creepy looking person in this and present her in a creepy looking way, then this will be a good twist and people won't see this coming. And it is kind of like it's just a red herring. It's just a twist. Yeah. But I don't know if it's necessarily worth it. It seems, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I think that takes me to my next thing I want to talk about.
Where's the beef?
The monster attacks. Let's talk about the monster attacks, or what jean jacket is what they ended up calling it. Let's talk about the jean jacket feeding scenes. What doubly sucks about putting her in that scene is that this poor character, I mean, I know I kill your darlings. Like, look, please feel free to shoot me down. I'm being too sentimental about a character that is not a real human being. But it sucks so bad that she had to go through that experience as a child And then she shows up to this thing years later and gets fucking eaten by an alien. I mean, I think the attack for this whole thing, it's supposed to represent wild animals. It's an act of God. It's a force of nature, basically, right? Like, there's no bargaining with it. There's no sense of morality. There's no sense of karma behind it. It would be like trying to prove your worthiness to a tornado. The tornado doesn't care. It's sucking up your house. But it did just kind of, I don't know, maybe it's a horror movie thing, but it really sucked to see like a lot of innocent people sucked into this thing's digestive tract. That scene is really going to stick with me.
God, you're just a buzzkill today, honestly. I know it's not often that you see a fellow chimpanzee attack victim like represented on screen. So I guess it's nice that you resonated with that. But then now you're like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sad innocent people died in a horror movie. Like, I kind of get it. But I also was, I don't know. It was like any hurricane movie. It was like Jaws. It was like, it was a lot. I mean, it was shocking, I thought. I didn't think it was gratuitous. It wasn't like Halloween like level, like, oh, here's a cute couple, we're just gonna go in there and murder them for no reason. It was like, it was jarring, it was shocking. I think it served a point in the movie. I kind of thought it was cool that the chimp attack victim was at the show, and like, you know, Steven Yen kind of referred to her. I mean, he was kind of putting on a show, but he's like referring to her in like a loving way, and he invited her to this, and even though she was attacked by an animal, she still wants to see this other animal. Like, it is kind of like, it's kind of like, maybe not inspiring is the right word, but it is like she's still inquisitive about you know, a thing that hurt her in a way. I don't know. I wasn't as bummed out by her as you were, but I also don't have that personal connection that you do. So,
I mean, you're 100% right. It's not nearly as bad as Halloween Kills. Jesus Christ. The people they chose to kill on Halloween Kills. It breaks every sense of morality that I feel going into a horror movie. But I think that's the thing right there, is that like a lot of horror movies tend to quote unquote play by the rules, where it's like, even if it's a fucked up sense of morality, there is like a sense of morality running underneath everything that kind of dictates who gets killed. So in an old slasher movie, it's like, oh, your friend is out having sex, they are going to get killed.
Right.
So there's some sort of like, obviously it's insane, but there's some sort of an underpinning. And then, yeah, I guess you have the force of nature ones like Jaws, where it's like the Kittner boy, like Sam Kittner, Alex Kittner, or whatever his name is, gets fucking eaten. And then we have to see his mom. Like, it's just like, oh my God, it makes you feel so bad. But I guess, yeah, it's giving you stakes.
We keep talking about Jaws. Before I saw this movie, I did see a clip of Jordan Peele talking about Jaws, as everybody does ever, because Jaws is one of the best movies ever. And you know, the story, you know, if you're not familiar with Jaws, they had this mechanical shark that they were planning on using for a lot of the movie, and due to like malfunctions in the equipment, they couldn't actually shoot enough footage of the shark to include it in more of the movie. So it's just, they have to pretend that the shark is there. They allude to the shark a lot. You see a fin, but you don't actually see the shark until like the end of the movie, pretty much. And that's like kind of been it's been like held up as like a shining example of like true horror and like revealing this thing. And I heard Jordan Peele referencing it and acknowledging it and talking about the monster, and like, you can't reveal the monster until the end, and you need this extra thing. And I was reading into that, like, again, like, okay, we're gonna have a twist, there's gonna be another thing, there's something else is here, like there's more here. And it ends up just being the monster like opens up and makes a weird sound and is kind of like shiny and like does like a mating ritual with like this big balloon and ends up eating it. And I guess, I don't know. Kevin, can I do some thieves? Can we do some thieves in this?
I think you're a thief.
Daniel Kaluuya is the fucking man, dude.
Right?
He's the fucking man. He's so good. He's so good.
He hits in everything. Do you remember when we went to go see Widows?
I loved him in Widows.
He is still one of the best villains I've ever seen. Him in Widows, holy shit. Jesus Christ. Judas and the Black Messiah. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't seen it. I guess I got to watch it.
Fucking crushes it the entire time.
I don't understand. He's just so low key. And he should be boring, and I don't find him boring at all. But he's doing nothing. He's just kind of standing there. He mumbles. He just kind of like doesn't make eye contact with people. He gets a little more confident during the thing. He's like, you can just go. He just plays so well with Keke Palmer, who is crushing it in a way that I found charming. I think some people found her a little annoying because she's a lot, but just the combination of the two of them is like so good, so good. And then one of my favorite moments in the whole movie is when they're getting ready to fight this guy or whatever, and they just randomly are like just dapping up, like just clapping hands real fast, and like they're both really excited about this thing. And it's like one of the few times like Daniel Kaluuya like allows himself to like be excited and like show energy and passion, and it's just so good. It's so good. They have so many great moments in this movie. The writing is like superb in so many sections that it's just like I kind of just wanted to like keep hanging out with these characters, you know?
Absolutely. I don't want it to come out like I didn't have a good time watching the movie, because I was there. If this movie was 4 hours long, I would have sat in the theater watching it the whole time, having no idea where it was going. I was still really enjoying being there and being in that world. And like you mentioned, I mean, Keke and Daniel they felt like they had 3 decades worth of being siblings. They had such a believable sibling relationship. I loved her specifically as a foil to him. So like, yeah, she was going over the top, but it fits so well with how low key he was going. You mentioning the way he kind of like mumbles, it reminds me of in Spider-Man comics, the character Tombstone has these like filed down teeth. And part of his whole thing, he's like a mob boss, and part of his whole thing is that he speaks really quietly. So people have to get in range of him. If you wanted to like bite them and take them out, he could. But it's like all a tactic to get them to lean in a little bit closer.
Man,
that's what he's doing. He's mumbling a little bit, and he's just drawing the whole crowd in closer.
Who was that? I'm sure somebody listening to this is going to be like, you know the answer to this. But I remember listening to The Devil Wears Prada, or somebody talk about The Devil Wears Prada, and Meryl Streep in that does this whole like whisper mumbly thing. And it's to like, so people lean in. And she said she got that from another actor who did in a different role. And I'm just like, it is a thing. It is like a technique kind of, and like a mannerism. And it is kind of something that's successful. It is like a tick of successful people, is like, they don't have to speak up because they know people will listen when they speak. So it's a total power move. It is like very interesting. And he's deploying it like as kind of like a boring guy in this thing, but I'm still like leaning in to hear everything. He's just crushing it. Like the acting in this was awesome. It was so good.
It's interesting too, because to throw it to the Gray Man again, a mild spoiler for the Gray Man, Regé-Jean Page is in it. His character seems so weak and ineffectual because he is throwing these temper tantrums all the time. And every single time he shouts and like smacks his hand against something, it makes him seem less intimidating. But I think he's doing it to try to seem more intimidating. And this definitely seems like a case of less is more.
I feel like he's trying to be the glass. Like everyone wants to be the lake, you know, they want to be like still, not a ripple. And then he throws a milkshake and it's like, oh, he can't even. This is a really composed guy and he like will talk low and all this stuff. But then he's so angry he has to throw the milkshake, you know, like it's like that kind of thing. Yeah. Like I think that's what they're going for in The Gray Man. We'll tune in next week for our analysis of The Gray Man. Kevin, one more question for you. What kind of evidence would you need to believe that this alien actually exists? Would a fuzzy photograph from a well be enough proof to convince you that there is alien life out there? Would you need something else? Would you be like, no iPhone, your battery, you couldn't charge your thing?
I would need something along the lines of IMAX film run through a hand crank camcorder. I think is the minimum of what would get me there.
So close.
The thing about the well is that with perspective, that could just be a much smaller balloon. We're talking about a jellyfish-sized. They both would look like balloons.
It couldn't be in focus too, right? It can't be in focus for like taking photos of people's faces 6 feet away, and then also have the capability of taking a photo of something like gigantic in the sky with any type of clarity, right? Like that's an impossible thing.
Oh, nah, dude. Nah, man. They got fucking all the chief Apple designers in there. They got a 4-lens system at the bottom of that lens. There's a LiDAR system to detect people's focal lengths. So you can change it all afterwards. It's great. That's why it takes so long to print those photos.
Okay, another question. What was your favorite delivery of a line, and why was it Michael Wincott reading Purple People Eater at the table? Because that was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. My buddy Matt Strickland got up to use the bathroom, and he comes back and he's like, "What'd you miss?" And I was like, "Dude, this guy just sat at the table and said the one-horn flying Purple People Eater," and it was incredible. Like, you have to buy another ticket. Like, you couldn't have gone to the bathroom at a worse time. Insane. Absolutely insane.
I hated that moment. I thought it was so corny. I thought it was a moment from a completely different movie. That was one of the moments where I was like, man, they went way over the top with this moment. They did not need to go so hard on this one specific moment. The other one was the fucking TMZ guy. How many times did they write in that this TMZ guy would be asking if someone's filming? We get it. We got it after the first one. He said he's with TMZ.
That was, I mean, it was great. It was great to introduce like a faceless guy to just like kick it, at the end, a faceless entity trying to ruin this beautiful and pure thing that they found. I don't know.
Oh, man, it is. And the fact that his helmet is mirrored, it has to mean something. Yeah. But unfortunately, we don't have time to speculate on it right now. What do you think it was? Send us an email, nerdy430@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought. Did you like Nope? Do you give it a yep or a yelp? Where do you stand on the E versus U debate? Give us 5 stars wherever you're listening. Thank you so much for your time, everybody. You can listen to anything. You listen to this. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Stay nerdy. We still saying stay nerdy?
Yeah, we're saying stay nerdy. They know to stay nerdy, but it's good that we remind them too.
What about Barbara Ferreira? She was like in like one scene in like the Best Buy type thing. Do you think there was more of her in this? You think, I mean, like, I'm like, how did she get cut? Like, what did she do to piss somebody off? Because she was so funny. Just the 2 seconds she was on screen.
Yeah, she crushed it. I think there's more of her. I feel like maybe there's a cut of this movie that's 3 hours long.
Do we want it? Nope.